The forbidden bond, the alien palace stood tall under the red skies of the Empire's capital world. Its walls were carved from black stone that shimmered with strange energy, and the halls echoed with whispers of power and fear. For centuries, the royal family had ruled with an iron grip, untouched by weakness, untouched by outsiders. But now, something impossible was happening within those very walls. Inside a hidden chamber, a human sat in silence. He had been captured months ago, brought as a prisoner after a failed battle in the outer colonies. To the aliens, he was nothing more than a creature of curiosity, strange, fragile, yet stubborn in survival. He should have been broken, but he was not. Instead, something dangerous had begun between him and the princess of the royal house. The princess had first visited him in secret. At the start, it was only curiosity. She had heard of humans, small species, reckless, foolish, but unafraid of the stars. She wanted to see for herself. But the more she spoke with him, the more she found something no one in her empire had ever shown her. Kindness. Where others looked at her as a ruler, he looked at her as simply a being. In his eyes, she was not a throne, not a crown, but a person. That truth pulled her closer every day. Weeks passed, and their secret meetings turned into something deeper. Laughter in the dark chamber, soft whispers in the night, and a bond that should never have existed. The Empire would never allow it. The Queen would destroy them both if she discovered the truth. But the princess could not stop herself, and neither could the human. Their worlds were enemies, but in that small chamber they were just two souls trying to understand each other. Then came the day when the princess felt something inside her body change. At first she ignored it, but the feeling grew stronger, undeniable, until one morning she placed her hand against her stomach and realized the truth. She was carrying life, his life, a human child within alien royal blood. It was something that should not be possible, something that defied all science, all tradition, all power of her people. But it was real. Fear gripped her heart. If the Queen discovered this, rage would follow. The Queen would see it as betrayal, as contamination of the sacred bloodline. But the princess did not feel shame. Instead, she felt fire. This child was proof that the impossible could exist, proof that walls between species could break. It was hope, something even she never thought she would find. That night she told the human the truth. His eyes widened not with fear but with silent shock. He reached out and held her hands, trembling. "Then we must protect it," he whispered. He was only one man, weak against an empire, but in that moment he felt stronger than he ever had before. For the first time he was not fighting for survival, but for something greater, for a future. But the walls of the palace were not blind. Servants whispered, shadows carried rumors, and spies moved in silence. Strange sounds from the hidden chamber, the princess disappearing too often. Questions spread like fire, and fire always finds its way to the Queen. On the seventh night, the Queen entered the chamber without warning. The heavy doors opened, and her presence filled the air like a storm. Her eyes glowed with fury, her tall crown casting a shadow across the floor. She saw the princess standing too close to the human, her hand brushing against her stomach as if to guard it. In that instant, the Queen understood. Her rage turned into something sharp and deadly. "You dared," she whispered, her voice like a blade cutting through the silence. "You dared allow this creature to touch royal blood?" The princess trembled, but she did not step back. Instead, she stood firm, her chin high, her hand still protecting her stomach. "This child is not a curse," she said softly. "This child is proof." The Queen's fury exploded. Her voice thundered through the chamber. "Proof of weakness. Proof of betrayal. Do you not see? He has poisoned you. He has poisoned the Empire." Guards stormed in, their armor shining, weapons drawn. The human was seized, dragged to his knees. He did not struggle, but his eyes burned with defiance. He would not bow, not even now. The Queen stepped forward, her face cold and merciless. "Lock him away," she commanded. "Seal him where no light can touch him." "And you—" She turned to the princess, her voice trembling with rage. "You will forget him, or you will be destroyed with him." But the princess clutched her stomach tighter. Her voice shook, yet her words were stronger than steel. "I will never forget. And you cannot destroy what is already growing inside me." The chamber fell silent. The Queen's eyes narrowed with hate, but for the first time there was also fear. Fear of the impossible, fear of the future, fear of the child that should not exist. And so the human was dragged away, chains rattling, the princess left alone with the queen's fury burning against her. But deep inside her, under her trembling hands, the forbidden bond lived. A bond that would change not only her fate, not only his, but the fate of the entire galaxy. The queen's fury, the palace shook with the sound of the queen's command. Her voice echoed down every hall, her rage reaching even the lowest servants. The human had been dragged away in chains, his wrists bound with glowing cuffs that burned against his skin. He was thrown into the deepest prison cell beneath the palace, an iron cage surrounded by alien energy walls that no human technology could break. But the queen's fury did not stop there. She summoned the High Council that very night. They gathered in a great chamber lit by blue flames, their tall, thin figures bowing low before her. She stood above them, her crown blazing, her eyes sharp with hate. "My bloodline has been poisoned," she declared. "The princess has carried shame into this empire, and the one responsible is a human." Gasps filled the room. A human, the weakest of all species? How could such a thing even be possible? But the queen raised her hand for silence. "This is no rumor. This is truth. I have seen it with my own eyes. The human dares to plant his seed into the royal blood. This cannot be forgiven. It cannot be allowed to grow." One counselor spoke carefully, his voice trembling. "Your Majesty, what of the child, if it is truly alive within her?" The queen's glare cut him silent. "That child is an abomination. It will never see the light of day." Meanwhile, in her chamber, the princess sat in silence, her hand still pressed against her stomach. Her heart raced, fear and sorrow battling inside her. She knew what her mother, the queen, was planning. She knew the council would demand the end of her child, but she would not surrender. "Not now," she whispered to herself. "This child is hope, and I will protect it." Tears filled her eyes, but her voice was steady. She remembered the human's words. "We must protect it." His courage had given her strength. And now, even though he was locked in chains far beneath the palace, she felt his spirit with her. Down in the prison, the human sat in darkness. His body was weak from the energy cuffs, but his mind was burning with fire. He remembered the queen's eyes, full of hate yet filled with something else too. "Fear. She fears the child," he whispered. "She fears me." The guards outside his cell laughed at him. "Human, you are nothing. Our queen could crush your body with a single thought. Your blood is weak. Your kind is nothing but dust in the stars." But the human only smiled faintly. "Then why am I here? Why is she so afraid of me if I am nothing?" The guards grew silent, uneasy. Deep inside, even they knew the truth. The queen had never feared anyone before. But this human, bound in chains, had done the impossible. That same night, the queen stormed into the princess's chamber. The flames of her crown lit the walls, casting dark shadows across the room. "You will end this," the queen growled. The princess stood, trembling but unbroken. "No, this child is mine. You cannot take it from me." The queen's fury exploded. The air itself shook. "You think you are stronger than me? You think this creature makes you powerful? He makes you weak. He makes you forget who you are." But the princess stepped forward, her eyes filled with fire. "No, mother. He makes me remember who I truly am. Not a crown, not a weapon of the empire, just a being who can choose her own path. And I choose him." The queen froze. For the first time, her daughter's defiance struck her like a blade. Rage consumed her, but deep inside, fear tightened its grip. If the princess was willing to stand against her own mother, then this child was already more dangerous than she imagined. "You will regret this," the queen hissed. "I will tear him from this world, and when I do, you will kneel before me again." The princess whispered back, "You cannot destroy what is already alive." Later, in the council chamber, the queen declared her final command. "The human will never see the sky again. He will rot beneath these walls. And when the time comes, the child will be erased." But outside the chamber, whispers spread faster than fire. Servants, guards, even low-born nobles all spoke of the impossible child. Some were horrified, but others were curious. What if the child was real? What if it was strong? What if it was a sign that change was coming? The empire had been ruled by fear for centuries. But now one human and one princess had planted something far greater than fear. They had planted doubt. That night, as the palace fell into uneasy silence, the princess looked up at the stars from her window. Her voice was soft but filled with unshakable resolve. "We will escape," she whispered. "I will not let you be taken." Neither you, nor him. And far below, in the darkness of the prison, the human lifted his head. Though chains bound him, his spirit was free. He could almost hear her words across the distance. A storm was coming, and it would shake the galaxy. The prison walls tremble. The prison beneath the alien palace was a place of silence. No sound of life, no glimpse of light, only the endless hum of the energy walls that kept prisoners trapped forever. Here hope was meant to die, but for the human, hope refused to leave. He sat on the cold floor, wrists bound in burning cuffs, his body weak, but his eyes alive with fire. The guards thought he was broken. The queen believed he was already forgotten, but deep inside he was waiting for a moment to crack a chance. Above him, the Empire's throne room echoed with the queen's endless fury. She ordered scientists and war scholars to study the human's DNA. Machines whirred, scanning his blood, analyzing his cells. Every result shocked them. This should not be possible, one scientist whispered. His blood binds with ours, it is merging. Another pale scholar stepped back in fear. If this continues, their child may not be weak. It may be stronger than both species combined. The queen's voice thundered. Then kill it before it grows. But not all agreed. Some in the council began to whisper when she left. A few dared to say, if the child is strong, perhaps it should live. Perhaps it is destiny. And so fear turned into division. Even inside her own empire, the queen's control began to tremble. Meanwhile, in her chamber, the princess pressed her hand against her stomach, whispering to the unborn child. You are not alone. Your father is strong, and so am I. We will not let her break us. But her heart ached with fear. Each night she dreamed of her mother's fury, of the child ripped away from her. Yet each morning she woke with more fire in her eyes. She would not bow, not anymore. Far below, the human began to hear things. The walls of the prison were not silent anymore. Strange cracks of sound echoed through the stone. Voices, whispers, footsteps that were not guards. One night, as he lay weak on the floor, he heard a sharp click. The energy field flickered for a second. Just a second, then it was gone again. His eyes widened. Someone was tampering with the prison. The next day, one of the guards leaned too close to the bars and hissed, Your time is ending, human. Soon the queen will erase both you and your spawn. But the human only smiled faintly. If she could, she would have done it already. She is afraid. And fear makes walls tremble. The guard struck him across the face, but the human's smile remained. That smile carried through the prison like a hidden flame. In the deepest part of the palace, whispers grew louder. Servants passed secret messages. Low-born aliens spoke of rebellion. If a human can change royal blood, then maybe change is possible for all of us. The queen tightened her grip, ordering executions for anyone caught speaking of the forbidden bond. But the more she tried to crush the whispers, the more they spread. That night, as storms rolled across the red sky, the princess disguised herself and slipped into the hidden tunnels beneath the palace. She carried a small device stolen from the laboratories, a device that could weaken the prison walls for only a short time. Her heart pounded as she moved through the shadows. Every step was danger. If she was caught, she would lose everything. But she pressed on, whispering to herself, for him, for the child. In his prison cell, the human sat in silence when suddenly the energy walls flickered again. This time longer, stronger. He looked up. Footsteps echoed, and then through the shadows he saw her, the princess, cloaked, trembling, but standing strong. Their eyes met, and for the first time in weeks his heart lifted. You came, he whispered. I will always come, she answered. She pressed the device against the wall. Sparks burst. Light flared. And for a moment the prison shook as if the stone itself feared to hold them any longer. The guards outside shouted in alarm, weapons drawn, rushing down the corridors. The palace shook with the sound of sirens. The queen's voice thundered across the halls. Stop them! Stop the human! Do not let him leave! The human stepped forward, his chains still burning, his body weak but his spirit unbreakable. We must go now. The princess's eyes filled with determination. Then we go together. And as the energy wall collapsed with a roar, the prison itself trembled, shaking the foundation of an empire that believed itself unshakable. The escape plan. The palace howled with alarms. Sirens screamed through the endless black halls and red lights flashed like angry eyes. Guards stormed toward the prison from every direction, weapons raised, armor gleaming. The air shook with the Queen's fury as her voice thundered across every chamber. Do not let the human escape. Kill him if you must, but bring my daughter back alive. Inside the broken cell, the human staggered forward, chains still burning into his skin. The princess rushed to his side, pulling him up with trembling hands. We don't have much time, she whispered. His body was weak, but his spirit blazed. Then show me the way. She nodded, pulling out a small crystal device. It projected a faint map of the palace, tunnels hidden beneath the foundations carved long ago by slaves. These are our only chance, she said. If we can reach the old tunnels, we might escape the Queen's warships. But already the ground shook with marching boots. The first squad of guards appeared, their eyes glowing behind helmets. Blasters lit the darkness. The princess raised her stolen weapon and fired back. Bright sparks exploded across the corridor. The human, still in chains, charged forward, using his bound wrist to strike one guard in the chest. The alien fell, armor crashing against the floor. Another came, but the human twisted, grabbing the alien's own weapon and striking him down. The guards hissed in disbelief. He fights even in chains? One whispered. But fear slowed them, and in that heartbeat of hesitation, the princess dragged the human into the tunnels. The tunnels were dark, filled with dust and shadows of the past. Strange carvings lined the walls, remnants of slaves who had once dreamed of freedom. Their whispers seemed to guide the fugitives forward step by step. But the Queen was not blind. She activated her fleet above the palace. Giant warships rose into the sky, their cannons ready. She would not only block escape from the ground, but also from the stars. She thinks she can cage the sky, the human muttered. But no cage lasts forever. As they moved deeper, the tunnel shook with explosions. The Queen's soldiers had sealed the exits. Walls collapsed, fire and smoke filling the air. The princess coughed, shielding her stomach with her arms. You must keep moving, the human said. Even if I cannot. She stopped, glaring at him. No, we move together, always. For a moment, silence fell between them. In her eyes, he saw unshakable strength. In his heart, he felt something greater than fear. Purpose. At last, they reached the final chamber of the tunnels where a hidden hangar lay. Rusted ships rested in the shadows, forgotten by time. The princess ran to one, her fingers flying across the controls. Lights flickered. Engines groaned. The ship awoke with a roar, but above them, the Queen's warships locked on. A wall of firepower surrounded the skies. From her throne, the Queen watched the escape on her crystal screens. Her voice dripped with venom. Run if you dare. The stars themselves belong to me. You will not leave this world alive. She raised her hand and the fleet prepared to fire. The small ship lifted from the hangar, shuddering under its own weight. The human strapped himself beside the princess, his chains still glowing, but his grip steady on the controls she could not reach. Outside, the sky erupted with beams of energy. Warships fired, their weapons tearing through the clouds. The escape ship twisted and turned, barely dodging the blasts. The princess's voice trembled. We can't outrun them. The human's eyes hardened. Then we don't outrun. We outthink. With a sudden move, he diverted power from the engines to the shields, causing the ship to dive low toward the mountains. Enemy fire struck, shaking the hull, but they pressed on. Hold on, he whispered. In the throne room, the Queen slammed her fist. Destroy them. Do not let that abomination breathe the air of freedom. Her voice cracked with more than rage. Beneath her fury, she felt something else, a shadow of fear. Because the more they escaped, the more she realized the truth. Her control was slipping. The escape ship surged through the storm clouds, smoke trailing behind it. Every blast, every hit brought them closer to death. The princess gripped his arm, her eyes wide but unbroken. For the child, she whispered. For the future, he answered. And together, they pushed the failing ship into the stars, racing against death itself. The future unfolds. The escape ship screamed through the black skies, flames licking its broken hull. Behind it, the Queen's fleet spread like a wall of fire, dozens of warships locking on, their weapons glowing with deadly light. The stars themselves seemed to tremble as the Queen's voice thundered across the comms. You cannot escape me, human. You cannot escape your queen. The princess held the controls tightly, sweat dripping down her brow. The ship shuddered under each blast, metal groaning as if the universe itself wanted to break them apart. We can't hold much longer, she whispered. The human, still bound in glowing chains, leaned forward, his eyes fixed on the endless dark. Then we hold until the last breath, because if this child survives, then so do we. In the throne room, the queen stood tall, her rage unchained. Yet deep inside, a strange fear gnawed at her. Why did the human not break? Why did the princess not bow? Why did the whispers of rebellion grow louder with each passing second? She slammed her fist. End them. Burn them from the stars. Her fleet fired in unison, beams tearing across the void. The escape ship twisted and spun, but it was not enough. A blast struck the wing, sending the ship into a spiral. The princess screamed, pulling at the controls, but the ship was falling. The human closed his eyes. In that instant, he remembered every word, every touch, every promise. And in his heart, one thought thundered louder than the queen's fleet. Humanity does not forget. Humanity does not surrender. Then, through the storm of fire, the impossible happened. The void itself seemed to open. From the shadows of deep space, colossal shapes emerged. Human warships, black as night, engines glowing with silent power. They had come without warning, hidden beyond the queen's gaze. The queen's fleet froze. Her commanders stammered in panic. Your Majesty, human ships, dozens, no, hundreds. The queen's eyes widened. Impossible. They should be broken. They should be scattered. But they were not. Humanity had waited, watching. And now they rose like wolves in the dark. The lead human dreadnought moved forward, its weapons charging. Across the comms, a voice cut through the chaos. To our lost brother, we never forget our own. The princess gasped. The human beside her closed his eyes, relief flooding his face. His people had come. They had not abandoned him. The queen's rage turned to fear. Her empire had ruled for centuries, but now her enemies were not weak. They were united. Fire! She screamed. Destroy them all! The stars erupted in war. Beams of light crossed the void, human and alien ships clashing in a storm of fire. Explosions lit the darkness like dying suns. The escape ship spiraled between the blasts, shielded by human dreadnoughts that moved like guardians. The princess clutched her stomach, whispering, Hold on, little one. You will see the stars. The human, eyes burning, turned to her. No matter what happens, the galaxy will never be the same. This child will not just survive, it will change everything. The queen watched her fleet collapse. Ship after ship fell to the human's fire. Her voice shook with rage. No! I am the queen of the stars. This empire is mine. But her words no longer carried the weight of truth. For the first time, her empire trembled, and the whispers of her people grew into roars. If the queen can fear, then she can fall. At last, the escape ship broke free of the battlefield, carried by the shield of human warships. The stars opened wide before them, endless and bright. The human's chains cracked and shattered as his people's technology freed him. He stood tall beside the princess, his hand over hers. Together they looked into the vastness of space, not as prisoners, not as fugitives, but as the beginning of something greater. The princess whispered, This child will be the bridge between two worlds. The human answered, his voice strong, No. This child will be the spark that sets the galaxy on fire. And as the human fleet carried them away, the queen's furious cry echoed across the dying battlefield. But her voice no longer commanded fear. It was only the roar of a ruler watching her empire crumble. For the forbidden bond had become more than love, more than rebellion. It had become destiny.